Welcome guys to our tutorial on XML, kind of like a bare bones version so that you can import stuff like this that I showed in a previous video. If you're thinking of using values in XML like this, and this is completely generated by Unity, so you don't have to write anything in here whatsoever. It is generated by the compiler and all. So let's get looking at our code. And before we get looking into our code, you have to make sure that this is in the folder called streaming assets. And it's spelled exactly this way. No spaces, a capital S, streaming, no space, assets with a capital A and an S at the end. Okay, if you do not put it that way, then it will straight up not work, and this folder will be included in your build and it will be completely editable. Any file that you put in there will be exactly the way you put it in the editor. This does not compile into other assets or anything unless you've pre-compiled it into something so you could port it into Unity. But this, actually, that brings up a good point. Is it that easy? Would it be that easy? Kind of curious now. And we add current scene, we do a builds, and I always put a new folder in here that's labeled like build stuff. Builds, and we will call this XML dot. So the compiler and all that stuff. Now this will probably take a while. This will be boring. So let's go look at some code. Now in our code, you need all these namespaces: XML, XML serialization, system.io. You may not need system, but I put it anyway. I always put that anyway. And then using system.xml.schema, I believe that's called. Now, in this class, we are not driving from mono behavior. We are driving from iSerializable. XML serializable. Okay? And the reason why we do this is to give us access to completely the XML library for serialize the class and stuff like that. Okay? And I put some basic values in, folder, just stuff that I want done. Okay, and in our thing, if you're used to using classes and stuff, then this is my classes, which I use. It's still compiling. I name it classes. That way, anything that I need globally, that's a class, like just for values and stuff like this, like a class like this. I don't want to make a file for each one. Okay, it's kind of pointless to me, and ooh, okay. Wait, what? Ooh, stream assets. The prefab don't get. Oh, ooh, that's interesting. That is very interesting. The prefab doesn't get compiled. So could it be that? Ooh, I'm definitely gonna be playing with this later. Okay, that answered my question. Okay, we go back to Unity and stuff. Okay, and ooh, that's really cool. I like that. I'm really excited because it does not get compiled. So if I have a model like, let's say, the FBX here, but it doesn't have a runtime controller yet, ooh, What could I do about the runtime controller? Could I do the same thing, possibly? Hmm. I don't know. We'll talk. I'll go into discovery like that. But this is something that I want. If I go into my thing, I see classes. Okay, I don't want to sit there and have to look for each thing and stuff. And you can always do it for interfaces too. You may be able to even put it into its own C sharp, like just file, but I like to keep organized, okay? And this is organization, but not about this tutorial. So here's the class. It's just basic values and things like that. And this right here, this ls, is a class. So we can do an array of classes. And in here, in a thing, I made the guns, the actual guns that's going from the serializable thing. I'm not driving it from mono, I'm driving it from here to a different place. If you've seen this before if you've seen some of my values. Basically, I'm using this as like a pure class, not driving it from mono, so I don't have to instantiate it or nothing like that. Now I use this to instantiate it. So that way we can get cool stuff like this. Bloop, 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 and it does the values. Now this is necessary to do because G is guns. Okay, let's see. And this is the whole point of it. Guns cannot be added because it's not driven from mono behavior. Okay, so you can't add it that way, which is fine. I mean, it, and because it's serializable like that, things, if this is driven from mono behavior, it gives you weird behaviors. It might not act right. So I would highly recommend making a variable in another class. That way, even it, like, because this is a value, this is permanent. Okay, you always have that class thing. You don't have to drag it or nothing like that. But in cool stuff like that, you can go g.start. Okay, and because this isn't a mono behavior, it doesn't care about the updates or nothing. It doesn't do on enable. It doesn't do anything from the mono library. So you got complete customization over. So, which you have the value stuff from mono, but that's a whole different story. And I put this bold to save or load. So we just have, now I have this save function, which is called from start, okay, which is driven from this class. No big deal. Now, in this, we will be using all this chunks right here. I'm going to call it chunks because I'm not going to read all that. And we get access to the XML serializer, and I call it SR, equals the new serializable, and it's the type of LSSL weapon, which is the class that he used that's not mono. Okay, that's why I use it that way, so I don't get no weird behaviors. Now we're doing it type of, and then we do a file stream, and we just open it and create a file. So this is really interesting. If you do file.create, every single time that you go to this, if you do it this way, it will overwrite the file every single time. It doesn't open it, check for changes or nothing. It just writes new. So that's how we can just write a file with a specific name. Now this name right here, you can put this up here as a string variable and use this to generate multiple names. Okay, like your username, so they get their own XML files. And we instantiate a data container.